Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I am about 3 weeks away. Actually, yes, exactly 3 weeks away from the deadline to complete this work. And I pretty much have a complete draft done. So I'm in good position. Let me share with you what I have done. All right. So the beginning here, I haven't made much changes at all. Let me see if I can zoom in. Since the last time. I did make one little change to one of these chords here. This chord, which is an E flat major chord. I originally had it with the in root position, which is having the the note we named the chord after, E flat in that case, as the lowest note down here in the basses. Um, but I was falling asleep one night thinking about my piece and thinking, yeah, there was something that bothered me about that chord, and that, oh, putting it in an inversion, having a different note of the chord uh, at the bottom might work. And the next, actually, maybe it might have been 2 days later. I kind of forgot about it. I changed it, and it makes it sounds a little better to me. It makes the motion from the lowest note to the next lowest note in each chord work a little bit better and changes the quality of that chord just a little bit. Um, and I think I changed the tenor also just to make the voice in the chord a little better. But um, I think I had the idea to close to a hum here. I think this is new. I didn't have this last time. Um, I love the sound of humming and people sing over the hum. I'm thinking about doing it even more in this is the middle section. So this is the section that um I think I had up to here, but then I have the rest until the climax pretty much figured out. And most of it I'm happy with. Um, but this ends with an M sound, so that works really well to get to the hum. These don't end with M sounds, so or N. I mean, there's actually three different ways to hum if you think about it. There's on an M sound, which is where you're closing your mouth, um, your lips, um, around the air, which is different than humming on an N sound, where you don't have to close your lips. It's your tongue that's creating the enclosure. With my tongue at the roof of my mouth. And then there's a third way, which is like an NG, like if you the end of the word sing, sing, then I can have my mouth wide open because it's I think it's the in my throat that's doing um but unfortunately, I don't have those sounds at the end, so it would be weird to kind of go May Flights of Angels. Uh, but it'd be nice to have all of those like that. I'll still think about that. Um, so anyways, I want to show you what I did in this middle section. So we had the May choirs, May Flights of Angels welcome you into paradise, paradise. We get back to our starting chord, our F major chord. Then May choirs of angels voice your arrival, and may they grant you repeated, and may they grant you, and the third time where they sing it together. This is the first time that the two choirs actually work together, singing the same thing at the same time. And may they grant you eternal rest, eternal rest, eternal rest, eternal rest, coming down from this climactic moment right here. Um, so what I was thinking with this, so first off, the harmonies here of the overlapping are essentially the same as I have um, at the beginning here for the first phrase. And then the second phrase that starts here, where I start getting more, having some chromaticism, some sharps and flats written in. Um, I start, uh, I start following that here a little bit, but what I really was thinking about was this sense of rising up in pitch, of getting higher and higher, um, in the registers of the singers to increase the tension. So for instance, just looking at the lowest notes, mm, make choirs of angels, then the next bass comes a step higher, voice your arrival. Next one is a step up from that, may they grant you. This should be, actually, no, that's correct. Um, may they grant you. And this getting up to, these are relatively high notes for the bass, especially this one. Um, before finally releasing in our original, our F major chord again. I was thinking about, so how could I ratchet up the tension? How could I make this feel like we're coming to this climactic moment? The climactic moment where we say, they may grant you eternal rest. Emphasizing the eternal rest, right? And then taking all this time to sort of come back down and rest of landing after that. A soft, very soft landing from those heights. So I thought about I mean, I introduced a little bit of chromaticism here, B naturals instead of B flats that we've had, but it gets more and more dissonant, more and more chromatic. Um, so we get more tension harmonically, we get more tension in terms of register going up, we get more tension in terms of dynamics increasing, going from piano to mezzo forte for the repeats, and then also in terms of the texture, they finally come together to sing the same words together. Um, and then finally getting to the double forte, really loud, full for eternal rest. I also want to show actually, so I thought a lot about the bass line, the lowest notes rising, but also we do this in the top line in the soprano melody. Make choirs of angels, step higher, vocal rival, and may they grant you, and may they grant you, and may they grant you. So then we finally get to the highest note, the A natural, which is a high note for the sopranos. So they can soar right at the climax. I also decided to have this ritardando, slowing down the tempo. So when we finally arrive there, it feels even more impactful. Um, and then this section, I originally was going to have this in 3/4, just like that, but I decided to um, expand this. I felt like it was too quick to come down. So I actually doubled everything. Instead of quarter notes, da 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 da, made it half notes, and at a slower tempo. So this was quarter note equals 48 beats per minute. It's like a 60 beats per minute means one per second. So 48 means a little more than a second. But then this goes to quarter note equals 60. So each half note is 2 seconds long. So this sense of expansion, I wanted to take time um, from those heights to come down, then each repeat of the phrase. And then here we're back to just using F major, the F major scale, the original diatonic notes. Um, so we leave the chromaticism behind, but that helps to drive it to that climactic moment. Um, and then this is gradually everything's coming down dynamically in terms of pitch, in terms of intensity. And then we have a little break, and then we do the overlapping chords on eternal rest that descend even more to the end. Here at the very end, I worked with changed some of the timing here. Um, I want to have another space of silence before the final rest um, after these. I think that works pretty well. And so that's pretty much the whole piece. I mean, let me give you a listen. Let's go from the beginning, actually, so you can get a sense of the whole entire thing. Um, there's just a little detail things I want to sort of work out and finalize before I send it to the conductor to get his feedback. I also want to think about some things of places to breathe, whether phrases are too long, some sort of things like that, because there's only going to be, this is a choir of 24 singers, and splitting them between two choirs of 12 singers means three on a part. Um, so doing stagger breathing is still possible, but it's stagger breathing is where you try to keep the sound continuous, and everyone tries to breathe at different points to keep the sound continuous in the section. Um, and that works really well if you have, a really big choir of 20 people in each section. With three, it's just trickier, right? There's more of a chance that they might accidentally breathe at the same place and there'd be this gap. Um, so I'm a little cognizant of that and want to make sure I'm not making it impossible for them. Of course, these are professional singers, though, so they will be able to get good breath and can hold their breath longer, probably, than your typical amateur singers. Um, but some of those things, and just rethinking some of the decisions I've made, identifying spots where I'm not 100% happy with, what they are, and still tinkering around with them will be things to do. And of course, any changes that the conductor um, finds as problematic too. Um, but here, yeah, let's listen right now from the beginning. right. So that gives you a sense of the whole thing. Although I noticed one one change I want to make. Um, I want this tempo to be the same as the beginning. Instead of staying the quarter note equals 60, which is too fast. This went too fast. I want it to be back at 48, which is this right here. Yeah. And then I also want to have a little slowdown in this last one, this last measure here. Um, but a little retardando there to that fermata. So even just enhancing that sense of resting, coming to at least a temporary resting place here, the end of that section before the final one. So yeah, this is pretty much done. It's all just details after this, details in, changing what I've written to make it optimal. And then also details of um, formatting, preparing the score, making sure I've dotted all my I's and crossed all my T's, that everything is as user-friendly as possible for the choir and the singers. So I'm not making anything harder than it needs to be in terms of them figuring out what I want, and what I want for them to do. Um, and that's it. Yeah, it's exciting. We've, once that moment for me, the biggest turning point in writing a piece is when I figured out a sense of how we're getting from the beginning to the end, the whole entire time, some sort of th musical thread from the beginning to the end. And this past week, it was figuring out the last bit of the threads was figuring out this part right here. I mean, I sort of knew what I wanted to do, but not, I didn't have exactly some of the notes and harmonies worked out. Um, but then once I have that, it's like, oh, everything's just a lot easier. That's the hardest thing is figuring out the what happens every moment, what that whole journey is going to look like, rather than the details of around that. Then it's just sort of filling in and adjusting and those sort of things for me. Um, then it's smooth sailing. All right. Hope you enjoyed. I think I'll check in one last time. I'll do one more of these with the finalized score and everything. Um, and then it'll all be ready for performance.